So let's talk about this NOAATAC case study that we're doing. So this is just an area up in Alaska that's a preserve that's very remote. People don't go there. There's not trails there, but this is where many lichens live. So lichens are a symbiotic organism between fungi and green algae, and sometimes you have some cyanobacteria in there. So they kind of look like a plant, but they're not. They're a symbiotic organism that's consistent of two organisms. And there's some really key things that you need to know. So we're going to convert some of the NOAATAC preserve to gas and oil usage. And so, but we don't want to lose the lichen diversity. So how do we do this? So some of the things that it's important to know about lichens is that they mostly grow on the ground, so preserving forest areas is not necessarily the best place. You want these sort of cold tundra-like areas where they grow. They're easily burned by fire, so we have to watch out about that. And that caribou rely on the lichens in the winter, but not the summertime. Okay, so that's our areas, and I'm just going to run through these maps that you looked at already. I know some of them are very confusing, but really what we're looking for is diversity, right? The more diversity we can get in our areas, the better. And so if you're looking at this is the NOAATAC preserve just right here. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of diversity. If you see, this is the ecotype classes. So most of it is just this alpine areas, but you can see there's a little bit of green over here. So if we wanted to get some diversity, we might consider an area that's over here or maybe over here, where we get a little bit more diversity in the ecotypes. So we might preserve more species that way. Looking at the fire perimeters, though, you can see that we've had fires in certain areas. So if we go back to that first when we superimpose these, we don't necessarily want to be down here, as you can see from this picture, where the fires are happening. So up here again might be a good idea, or over here at the edge of the preserve might be a good idea. Looking at this one is crazy. This is a geological map, so it's just showing the different deposits of things in the soil. So again, we're going for diversity. That's really all we're looking at here, is we're going for diversity. So you can see there's a great amount of diversity right over here, sort of in the middle. We're trying to avoid those fire regions that are down here, but you can see there's a lot of diversity here. So that might inform your decision too. This is a shaded relief map, so we're looking at low elevation to high elevation. So you can see we don't have a ton of elevation differences, but we do have a little bit of mountainous areas here. So you may not want to be that high. They don't do super well when it's up at really high elevation. So we want to be maybe a little bit down lower. Again, so those same areas are looking pretty good as far as the diversity of elevation. And then looking here at the caribou, the caribou venture up into their winter range right here. So they're really only touching this bottom part of the NOAATAC preserve, well, in the dead of winter, but most of the NOAATAC preserve is in sort of this migratory area. So we're not super concerned with the caribou, but we have to consider both angles, right? Do we want the caribou to die? So do we want to preserve their food source? But then also, what damage is the caribou going to do on the lichen population? But again, we're mostly in their migratory range, not necessarily their winter range, so we're not super concerned about that. And then really also you have to decide, do you want to preserve multiple small areas so you get that maximum amount of diversity, or just one big area and allow the rest to be harvested for oil? I would go with the multiple small areas because you can preserve more diversity that way and get a lot more diverse ecosystems that you're preserving that way. So those are just my thoughts on that. But there's no right or wrong answer to how you do it as far as the information that you've been given. There's probably a best case scenario based on some modeling we could do about the species, but we're not doing that here. So just do your best at what you think might preserve the most diversity.